Hello. So this wasn't a video I was expecting to make today, but it's definitely something I think that needs to finally be addressed and talked about, and something that I can kind of post up on a few of the channels so that way you guys know what's going on. Um, so this week I won't be doing any streams. This is the week of the 2nd. I'm on my lunch break at work real quick, so I figured I'd record this. Um, so the week of May 2nd to um, until Sunday the 8th of May, I'm going to be taken off from streaming, and the reason, simply put, is my mental health has degraded to an extreme. So I don't talk about myself much when it comes to my past and like my relationships, and that's for good reason. I have a closet that would scare most people to death, and has lost me dates because of because of it. So because of that, I figured I'd kind of put this video out there and kind of talk about this because I don't. It's probably been showing up a bit more and more on my stream as recent, and over the last few years. So basically, growing up, I from a young age kind of faced a lot of mental abuse and physical abuse. My mother was very old-fashioned when it came to punishments. Physical labor was typically her preferred way of punishment. But a lot of the mental abuse, I didn't go a day when I was younger without being told either how weak, stupid, or just annoying I was. My from a young age, my father took off. When I was about like 2 or 3, my stepfather came into the picture after that, married my mother, and he was always kind of abusive. Never physically abusive. Pointing a gun at your son, at your stepson, is pretty physically abusive, but we won't go into detail with that. But everything was always, oh, you're weaker than I am. Oh, you're weaker than I am. Always that kind of toxic masculinity where he had to assert his dominance, which definitely rubbed off on me as a kid, and I went through a lot of shit because of it. One of my biggest issues, I would say, was the fact that, I had to live up to that standard. And if it wasn't my stepfather telling me how weak I was and being constantly finding shit for me to do, like hard labor jobs around the house, always cleaning, doing something, or just being told to fuck off, pretty much. It was my mother who, for a very long while when I was young, I looked up to as almost a hero. In my family, my grandfather had an IQ of 150, my mother had an IQ of 180, or 86. I can't remember what my IQ score was. Supposedly it was higher than average, but I don't recall it off the top of my head. Plus, IQ tests are worthless in my point of view. It just shows how good you are at puzzle solving. It just means you like puzzles. That's really all I remember of it. But the comparison when I was young was, oh, you're never as smart as your mother. My mother was a straight A student, but she was also the type who would go after, who, in her own words, liked to see how quickly she could get a guy to propose to her as a kind of a game for her. She collected like 11 engagement rings, never gave them back, which nowadays, God, if a woman would not be able to survive. But, my mother was always kind of a hero. My biological father was abusive, and so she got me out of that situation. She starved some nights when we were living in the condemned houses to try to feed me, and I really respected that, and I really looked up to her as that is what a mother should be. So, when it came down to it, my first time of having a gun pointed at my head from my stepfather, so my stepfather stopped after that. We won't go into too much detail for that. But the first time it happened, I was rather young, and basically, right then and there, that was when my mother kind of told me outright that she would rather choose her husband over me. Now, she always told me how dumb I was compared to her, how I was never as good. She didn't care what grades I did. a letdown because I didn't go out and party and drink the entire time. Like throughout my entire high school period, my mother's comments were always, "God, how are you my son? You don't go party, you don't drink, you don't do drugs." And I'm sitting here like, I'm a B student and working my ass off. I was a good student in high school for a good portion of it until it just got to the point where the abuse just became too much. So I, didn't have much of a family growing up. And when the abuse started with my stepfather, and I went and told my grandfather about, having a gun basically shoved at my head, and being told by my mother she'd never go against her husband in court, that she'd rather just see me, suffer in a sense, or that I could just leave. Note, I was young at this point. I won't go how young. I'm not going to go into how young. But when I told my grandfather, the only man I looked up to, because of the fact that he was a good man, he took me to comic book shops, he looked out for me, he took care of me, hung out with me. He was the coolest guy ever. Growing up, my mother was strong and independent, and I respected her. My grandfather was the cool guy, the dude that I wanted to be like. He, mixed martial arts master, worked out constantly when he was young, worked his ass off for his family, and really instilled a respect to the family for me. And unfortunately, when I came to him, he told me basically outright, "Hey, I don't give two shits. This isn't going to change my opinion of your stepfather. He's still a good man. He's still this. He's still that." And when I kind of realized from a young age that I had no support, I had nothing. I had no one there for me. I had to kind of strike out on my own and figure shit out. And that definitely left me with some sick and twisted memories from my youth. That definitely have carried over. I've had a therapist diagnose me with PTSD. I've had psychiatrists confirm the diagnosis. There's a lot of shit I can't deal with. I can't sleep most nights unless I'm stoned anymore because of the nightmares that I get, the reoccurring nightmares. Night terrors are just stuff I've seen that I wish I could unsee. Because of that, I decided to spend my later adulthood kind of bottling things up. I would kind of continue to bottle everything up from 18 to 24-ish, and it led to me being a very angry and bitter and hateful person. And once I got into college again, I started seeing a therapist and started talking to people, started to open up. I realized how fucked up I was, and there was a lot that I had to go through. I worked my ass off in college, got my degree. I think I'd go into an industry where I'd be helping people, and man, was that a letdown. And then I found out also on top of that the industry I'm in doesn't promote based on your ability, they promote by your time in the industry. So you can be the worst person at your job, as long as you haven't pissed anybody off, you will be able to get the next level in the career, which was it's just awful. Doesn't work well for a guy like me who is very ambitious and skill oriented. I pick up skill, basically meaning I pick up skills quickly, but because of the mental and physical abuse I got as a kid has pushed me to a point where now in my adult life, after the breakup with Calvin, which really hit me hard, that I really bottled up and tried to hide away, I started lashing out, there we go, at my friends. I started attacking a lot of them in ways I regret, to be honest. I've lost a lot of fucking good friends. So, we used to have our first D&D group. We lost Fuka after a bitter fight between me and him. We would later lose Dolkin, another player that was a really good close friend, Never, and then Tren would eventually decide he couldn't run a campaign with me anymore. And the mental abuse that I was lashing out with against these people, it was disgusting. It reminds me of my father or my mother. And when I started seeking therapy when me and Calvin were dating, it started to get better. I started to mentally get healthier. I started to really perk up and things started fixing. I started to heal. I was able to talk to someone and open up. I had a female therapist and a female psychiatrist because I had a hard time opening up to males. To be honest, I still don't. I make good friends with guys, but without issue. But I really struggle with the idea of actually opening up and being emotional, because that's not how I was raised. And I was raised in a I guess what you define as a toxic masculine way, where you just bottle up and keep pushing, you endure, and none of my friends can deny my ability to endure. But it's come to more of a head as of recent, where I've gotten into those low lows almost every other month, to the point where there's problems I need to fix. When Calvin and I broke up, there was a lot of unresolved issues from my end. I felt like I was defeated and destroyed. I felt like every time I was gonna love someone, they were just gonna walk on me, and that made me very defensive and made me very quiet, because it happened when I started joking, and I lost a lot of my sense of humor after that. It was a toxic relationship. It was bad. Probably more because of how bad I am, to be honest. When we broke up, I kind of spiraled a bit, just kind of doing hookups and whatever. But I was in a good mood 24/7, and that's what mattered. I would continue to kind of go through with that until just recently, where it's gotten real bad. And recently I just went off on a few friends of mine over some stupid jokes. I mean, they were offensive, and it was really definitely too far, but it was, well, they shouldn't have said it. I should have also confronted them instead of just leaving. I let it fester, and while they didn't seek me out, I didn't seek them out, so I think fault came on both sides. And I lost friends because of it. Tren and Chasten have both decided to leave the group, which is fully understandable. Fraz has decided to take over the old server, because I kind of decided I wanted a fresh start on a new server, making it easier to use and getting away from a lot of the bad juju, if you will, the drama. Because, to be honest, on that server, we had lost my friend Fuka, we had lost Never, we'd lost Jacob, we'd lost Dulkin, we'd lost Troy quit playing D&D with us, and it was just like, the more and more I looked around, the more I realized how much people were afraid to leave, and as well as afraid of me. And that's not something I can have. I built this group because I wanted a family so desperately, from something I didn't have when I was younger. I wanted to make a difference in some way by helping people like me to avoid the shit I fell into, and instead I caused them more trauma in a lot of cases. I did some good, I can't deny it. I helped out a few friends here and there, but I am definitely cause for more problems than I am helping. And it's gotten to the point where my friends are on the edge, ready to walk, and they fully should. And because of that, I wanted to just kind of put this out there and say, yeah, no, if you're like this, you need to seek help. I realized I can't do this anymore. So because of that, I've scheduled something with a psychiatrist this weekend, hopefully this weekend, either this weekend or Friday. So Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, in which I'm going to hopefully speak to someone, and that's the least I can try to do, as far as it goes. I know I can't get those friends back, and that's something I'm gonna have to live with. But I also know that I need to seek help, and my mental health is degrading to the point because all I'm focusing on is everyone else, and leads me to trying to focus on problems that they don't have, or problems that aren't there, or making problems, and that's not something that a good friend does. I don't expect any of them to watch this, but the reason I'm putting this out is just so that way you guys know that I am taking a week off from streaming, recording, maybe 2 weeks, and then I should be back. So to all my channels, that's kind of what's going on. I won't post this on the Stoner channel because there's no reason, since that channel doesn't come back till June. But for those who are close and those who are really big on following this stuff, I'm gonna take the 2 weeks off, and I will be back I'll be back on the 8th, to be fair, because we're gonna stream D&D. But as far as my regularly scheduled streams, I'm probably gonna be off for at least this week. I won't be streaming at all this week. I'm just gonna be gaming and chilling. And then next week, we should be back. Like I said, Sunday is my goal. The 8th is when I'll hopefully be back. And hopefully I'll get to see the psychiatrist and we can start the progress of fixing things. It's not something that you just do in one session. It's definitely going to take years to deal with it. But at the very least, I can start somewhere and it's worth the while. I mean, I ain't getting those friends back, but I can damn make sure no one else has to suffer. And those friends closest to me don't have to deal with that. Because I'm tired of chasing away people. And I think that that's something I need to kind of come to terms with. Especially because I keep breaking my body so badly when I'm at the gym. Because I'm trying to punish myself for stuff. I got a lot of issues to work through. So, that's kind of the thing. And this is my little announcement. Thank you all for your understanding and patience. And hopefully when I come back, we'll be back to happy, joyous, working our ass off at getting Crusader Kings 3 achievements and building strongholds in Minecraft. So thank you guys, and I really appreciate it.